To the uninitiate, it seems as if the white race is supreme. Once you get to the higher initiates, there is a different story, and Nimrod was worshipped as black or white. There is chaos created between the races, so you have the Ku Klux Klan, which is anti-black, and you have organizations which are equally anti-white. This is called dialectic thinking. Remember the Hegelian principle? You create friction between the races so that you can have synthesis in the end and bring about a new world order. So in order to unite the races, the best thing to do is to create chaos amongst the races until the pain of separation exceeds the pain of unity. You understand the Hegelian dialectic thinking? It's brilliant. It's sick, but it's brilliant. And it doesn't matter if you sacrifice hundreds of thousands of lives to achieve your objective, because the end justifies the means. It really is a terrible doctrine.
This COVID-19 pandemic, the real danger is Agenda ID 2020. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. I've looked into this in the past, but there's been so much going on that I haven't really dove into the real theories behind why this is so dangerous. Like, I know them. I know what the arguments are, but I haven't really dove into them and researched them, which is what I always want to do before I talk about it with you guys. But this is the point that really alarmed me. It says, what is the infamous ID 2020? It's an alliance of public partners. And by the way, this is the ID that we're all going to have to have apparently by the end of this year, or rather maybe right now. I actually got a passport, which is the same thing because it also has that chip in it now. But the point is to have something that's chipped, something that's trackable, something that is that is national, right? So you no longer have your state ID, you just all have the national ID. And that is driving this same agenda. It always has been. And now it's under the guise of coronavirus, again, being forced in. It says it's an alliance of public-private partners, including UN agencies and civil society. So don't you love that our country is allowing UN agencies to be involved with our internal policy? Again, some people might not care about that, but that alarms me. Now, it's an electronic ID program that uses generalized vaccination as a program for digital identity. I didn't know that, and that is crazy alarming. Because now think about this. Now this is going to be the point that, well, you can't get your ID unless you've been vaccinated. Okay, so now they're going to force you to get vaccinations so you can have an ID, and if you don't have an ID, you can't do anything. You see how they've set that up? You can't. You'll need the chip to fly. You'll need the chip to access certain areas. They'll make sure things are locked down with biometrics, so you need that ID to do basically everything. This just becomes social credit like in China, right? Well, you don't have your vaccinations. Well, you're a bad citizen, and we can't allow you to leave. This is one of the most alarming things we can consider right now, because this, even if you believe in vaccinations that you should all be forced, it will be used nefariously. Guarantee it, because there always is somebody out there who will use it for their own purposes. History is very clear on that. It says the program harnesses existing birth registration. This just sounds so alarming to me. And vaccination operations to provide newborns with a portable and persistent biometrically linked digital identity. Yeah, that's totally not alarming at all. Gavi, the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization. So this whole ID is hinged on your vaccinations, which should be a choice, right? Informed consent and all that, right? Medical freedom. It's crazy that we just don't even care about the tenets of our medical system anymore. Identifies itself on its website as a global health partnership of public and private sector organizations dedicated to immunization for all, whether you like it or not. Gavi is supported by the World Health Organization. Oh, what do you know? And needless to say, its main partners and sponsors, of course, are the pharma industries that stand to benefit unbelievably from that idea. Now, it says the Alliance at their Summit 2019, entitled Rising to the Good ID Challenge. This was in New York. Think about how we're having one of the first quarantines in New York right now. Decided to roll out their program in 2020. A decision confirmed by none other than the World Economic Forum in Davos in 2020. The same place where all of these people came together. Bill Gates, the Remember the Johns Hopkins 201 event where they all sat around the table? All of those people were at Davos, and they all collectively got together and discussed this and are now driving it forward. Now, I'm not saying conspiratorially wise, they did, that's a fact. But what's most alarming is that all the same players are involved with all the same agendas, even though it kind of breaches into a whole other level here that has nothing to do with this virus. It seems very obvious they're driving this in, and that should scare you. As they asked, is it just coincidence that this is being rolled out on the onset of what the World Health Organization calls a pandemic? Or is a pandemic needed to roll out this exact idea? It says, here is what I'm not going to try to pronounce this, that's an interesting name, policy advisor to the Bangladesh government program. He says, quote, "We are implementing a forward-looking approach to digital identity that gives individuals control over their own personal information while still building off existing systems and programs. The government of Bangladesh recognizes that the design of digital identity systems carries far-reaching implications for individuals' access to services and livelihoods, and we are eager to pioneer this approach." Of course, they're arguing the opposite, right? This is the opposite of what's going to happen, right? You will have no control over anything. That's what's so, as he's saying, like, wow, this guy has no idea what he's getting into. This whole thing should be alarming to us today because it's yet another agenda. By the way, this is, here it is. Oh. I had that open. Anyway, I had more information on that, but this will all be in the show notes. It's all in the article. You can look at it for yourself. It's pretty crazy to see that there's yet another agenda that has been focused on, forced in for a very long time. And yet another one being forced in due to the fear around this whole topic.
Will that re-education be brought about? Well, just as in World War II, this country could use its news media to propagandize and make the whole American public love the Germans and the Japanese, rather love the Russians and the Chinese and hate the Germans and the Japanese. And then after the war, they changed it and made the American public love the Germans and love the Japanese, hate the Russians and hate the Chinese, which shows that they can make the American public love whom they will and hate whom they will.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before.
Never waste a good crisis. And when it comes to the economic crisis, don't waste it.
Welcome back to the Crypto Teacher. And guys, you know, the second video, Saturday and Sunday, I like to make you think. So we're going to touch bases back on Pay ID. Basically, I found a video about 3 months ago, even though I spoke about this earlier also. But it just touched bases back with the identity ID for 2020. And remember I said Microsoft, Accenture, all that is combined. Of course, this guy who's doing this video, he's just speaking of the conscious side, but he's not linking the money up. Remember I told you that's the reason why I did this video, because you can link consciousness plus with the money because it's all tied in together. Plus, basically, of course, we have Hillary trials are going on. You know, she has to testify. Now, this was back in March, right at the height of the pandemic. So the C word, of course, has been a big distraction. The same way when you had China-gate with Bill Clinton. So all the distractions going on, and you're really not focused on what needs to have the focus on. So don't forget Emmanuel and Hillary. Basically, if you have a crisis, don't let it go to waste, because you can do things that you never thought you could do before. And then also listening to Malcolm X. He's the main one that used to talk about the media machine. The media machine would do what? Make the guilty look innocent and the innocent look guilty. And it can brainwash you, have you think certain way. Now, this was back in the 60s. He already knew this. This, you know, you understand how smart he was. But this, like I said, this was back in the 60s. He already knew the media's game. And, of course, that's the reason why he had to meet the bullet. But y'all have a wonderful day. And happy Father's Day. Tomorrow, I'm going to do something a little different because, of course, I'm going to enjoy my day also. But I will upload videos just going to be about, of course, the money and the consciousness and sort of less about Bitcoin. But y'all have a wonderful day.